Welcome to the Golfish podcast. I'm your host, Amy Goodman. Every week on the show, we're going to bring you fascinating interviews with the families, caddies, and coaches of the PGA, LPGA, Champions Tour, and beyond. This week, we have Jordan Badger Bazzone, PGA Golf Professional at Woburn Golf Club, Instructor at Teta Cup, Creator at Adidas, and Ambassador for TaylorMade, among other accomplishments. If Woburn Golf Club sounds familiar, you may know it from hosting the LPGA AIG Women's British Open this past weekend, and being the home club of touring PGA professional Ian Poulter. Jordan walks us through what it's like to be a PGA professional, how to become one, and some key things to watch in your game. If you want to learn more about PGA Club Professionals, how Jordan got his nickname, and his favorite golf memory that happened stateside, then this episode's for you. Let's get started. Hey, Jordan, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining me on the Golfish podcast.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Very well, thank you. Very well. How about yourself?
I'm great. How is the weather for you in the UK? I know it's probably getting a little dark there for you now.
We're still all right in terms of light, but it's not been too great recently. It's been a bit wet actually the last few days, so it's warm enough, but a bit wet at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly how we are in Cincinnati. So we are about 4,000 miles apart, but it sounds like we have very similar weather patterns right now. We are just getting pummeled by rain, but it's nice and humid now too.
Yeah, exactly the same actually. We're getting pummeled and very hot at the same time.
Yeah. So, all right, awesome. Well, I wanted to introduce you to our audience, the Golfish podcast audience, but tell us about yourself. Tell us whatever you'd like to in your bio.
Yeah, so I currently PGA Professional at Woburn Golf Club in England. For those that may have seen the Woburn logo around, you would have probably famously seen it on the shirts of Ian Poulter, Charlie Hull in the past, for example. We are just about to host the Ladies British Open over at Woburn for the second time in 3 years. So we've got a lot going on at the club at the moment. I've been at Woburn now for nearly 9 years now, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's, feeling a bit part of the woodwork, but absolutely love it there.
That's
so
awesome.
I can't complain with that. Yeah. So, there's a lot going on at the moment at the club.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So I know just from some research online, you're also an instructor for Teta Cup. You're a creator with Adidas Golf and an ambassador for TaylorMade. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So tell us. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, so yeah, very fortunate to have some very nice brands work with me. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so let's kick off with how you became interested in golf.
So how I became interested in golf, actually, I was always, as a youngster, playing football or soccer. When I was a youngster, and golf wasn't really a thing I was interested in, actually. My dad did play, but very, very rarely. And how it all came about was the football team we played for. We did this dads versus lads kind of thing every year. And we played, we'd done it with football, with golf, cricket, other sports. And I kind of got into it that way, just playing a bit socially, messing around with friends at weekends, and never really thought it would ever kind of go anywhere from there. It was very much just a side thing that I did outside of football when I was younger. So it wasn't like my family were heavily involved in it. I took the game up actually probably a little bit late in the grand scheme of things now. So, coaching youngsters from age sort of 4 and 5. I was about 11 when I first picked up a golf club. So I was a little bit later than usual, and then it spiraled from there, really.
That's awesome. So so you said your dad played and you were kind of brought into this by the dads and lads stuff. Who influenced you in golf to then say you're picking up a club at 11 years old and then you stayed and went on to become a PGA pro at a well-known golf course in the European golfing world?
Yeah, so it sounds a bit crazy when you say it like that, doesn't it? Really going from nothing to being all of a sudden where I am lucky to be now. One of the idols when I was growing up very much was obviously Tiger Woods was massive in my era. I was born in '91, so it was very much when he was kind of, big in the scene. And you play Tiger Woods on your games consoles, things like that.
Yeah, right.
He was very big, obviously. But one I always followed and really liked, and it came from when, I can't remember the year exactly, but Justin Rose.
Oh, love Justin Rose.
Yeah, it was a big idol of mine when I was a youngster. And it came from when he had an epic battle with Ian Poulter, actually, at Woburn for one of the Dunhill Masters, or the old British Masters when it was back on the calendar. And I just remember sort of hearing all about that because it was actually quite local to where I am. And then I loved the way Justin Rose played golf, his mannerisms. I think he's a very good model professional, so I definitely used to follow him around and see what he was doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, Justin Rose is fascinating to watch. His interviews, I agree with you, just how he holds himself, how he plays the game. I think he is a great role model for golf, even today. I
agree. I totally agree. I think how his, he went, I think it was at 21 cuts he missed in his first 21 events or something. So that kind of is, massively inspirational for those that ever feel like they're struggling slightly out there, for him to bounce back and just work hard and
absolutely
grind it out. He was, he's done so well for his career and hit the top of everything he's ever done.
Right. Absolutely. It's fascinating when you see so many of these guys and girls on the course and you're like, how do you just get back up after so much defeat? And they do time and time again. If you watched this weekend, it was kind of the same thing, right? So it's just really cool to see them and have that motivation. I think even as someone that's not very good at golf, but just loves the sport, to not want to give up and quit on it.
Oh, 100%. And everyone's going to have their own goals within, obviously, golf, whether it's recreational and you just, you want to beat your handicap, things like that. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have that, their own little battles they're fighting within the game, whether it's the world's best or whether it's, like I said, whether it's recreational. But you got to, these guys are inspirational that keep getting back up and going again, because that's not easy. That takes a lot of drive and guts, I suppose, just to keep going again. Mm-hmm. And learning from everything that comes their way.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about your day to day as a PGA pro. What does that mean? What does that look like?
So at the moment, I'm full-time coach at Woburn. So that's me. That's what I do. So I suppose a typical day to day would be seeing lots of individual clients, working specifically with them and on their games. I love this time of year coming into our summer because it means I can get out on the golf course more with the guys, and obviously that's where really people's golf is improved, out on the golf course, learning different shots, different lies, mm-hmm. and adapting to different situations, not necessarily just hitting golf balls on a driving range. So my day will be mixed very much from driving range to our short game area practice to then on the golf course.
That's awesome. So who do you coach? Like, how do people find you? How do they find Woburn? Or how do you find clients to coach day in and day out?
So it very much started the way my business started. I've been at Woburn for 9 years now. 7 of those years I was actually working for the golf club. So I very much started my PGA training there, was working as a retail assistant from the age of 18, I think I was. So I've been around the club and around the membership for quite a long time. So I then went through my training, got my PGA qualifications. So I'd already built this rapport with the membership. So that's very much how my business started. I had clients from Woburn members, and then I was lucky enough to get a bit of business from kind of word of mouth, and it's just expanded from there. And then now through my website or through my social media platforms, do mm-hmm. a bit of videoing and advertising and get a bit of exposure that way. And then people, if they like me, they come see me, I suppose.
Yeah, that's awesome. So since you mentioned social media, I'd love to talk about how you got into Focus Friday, because I feel like, just based on watching you on Instagram, that is a place where you are reaching probably your highest amount of followers. And is that kind of accurate for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So the Friday Focus thing came about for me. there's a lot of amazing golf content out there via YouTube, other platforms, things like that. And the way I like to coach and do things, golf is so personal and individual. Yes, there's I don't like to call it a model. Let's call it a model golf swing or something like that. Faults that you can do, and there's fixes to fix those faults. Mm-hmm. But the Friday Focus thing really for me was actually I wanted to get away from all that because I probably actually fix more people's golf swings from when they go on YouTube and try and search a little golden nugget that it doesn't quite happen. So I wanted to get away from that, and just everything I do on there is golf course situations. So you can actually do a bit. So some of the stuff I do is a bit more preparation in terms of how you might approach a shot, different lies, learning to use different clubs in situations. The stuff that every single person can do, and it's not going to be generic to their actual technique. Mm-hmm. So that's how Friday Focus came about, and I wanted to give back in that way, just to change it up a little bit. And try and hopefully break some trends in the future from just being, the technical stuff. Actually, I'm a massive fan of you improve your golf on the golf course, not on the driving range. So mm-hmm. People don't spend enough time learning how to play out these different lies in bunkers. Unfortunately, we're going to get them, so we need to know how to play them.
Absolutely. I was watching one of your videos and you mentioned that you were like, well, I didn't get a great lie. So this is what we're going to do to get under the trees, but go 180 yards type thing. And I think that is where I think you're completely correct. That people do get lost because they're so used to the driving range. Then they get out there and they're like, I can't find my ball. I don't know what to do. They're stuck. They don't know how to shift their body or how to loft the club or anything like that. And I think what you do is really fascinating because it is not specific to any one person, but can help the masses if they saw it.
Yeah, that's it. Correct. Thank you.
I think it's really cool too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go on.
I think it's really cool too. I was watching some of your videos from some of the coaching that you do, I assume all over the world, because some of these places looked pretty tropical. But I was looking on your Instagram and there were some videos of you with different groups and you were traveling coaching. Can you tell us about what that entails and how that got started too?
Yeah, of course. So that's something I like to do in the winter months, because in the UK, the winter months aren't always pleasant. So try and make the most of those situations and take groups of people away on coaching trips. This might be a 4 or 5 day trip, let's say, and we'd try and go to some really nice venues, mm-hmm. a bit warmer climates within Europe typically, and we would do sort of 4 or 5 days which would consist of different types of coaching. So we might do a bit of short game coaching or bunker coaching, and that might be in the morning or in the afternoon, but we'd also play a 4-day competition as well while we're there. So we're getting out on the golf course. And whilst I'm there, I play each day with a different group. So they get me for 18 holes on the golf course as well.
That's
so we
cool.
can talk about those on-course situations and help their golf that way. So it kind of, then when we come back from those, we're typically then into our golf season around April, May time, depending on the weather. So it gives people a good base to then go and practice for the season. They don't feel like they're just picking the golf club up for the first time after 3 months off if it's been snow on the ground for that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then tell us about your yellow ball game, because I was cracking up at one of the videos where you were like, so this is the face of someone who just lost a yellow ball for their team. I was dying. I thought that was funny.
What everyone didn't see was actually I lost a yellow ball as well.
Oh!
So I didn't quite stitch myself up there. But we typically tend to get there in the afternoon on the first day. So rather than some golf trips end up in the bar for maybe a bit too long, we get out and play 9 holes that afternoon, and each team has a yellow ball, and each person has to use it once, at least once, and it's worth double points. We play Stableford within our 4-ball bettable and the team score. And it's worth double points. Obviously, if you finish out the hole, then great. But if you lose it, then obviously you have no ball to play double points with. So it's amazing, that little yellow ball, the pressure it piles on people when they have it in their hands. It's incredible.
Absolutely. It seems
Just
like
keep
it would be
living
lots.
life. And like I said, there was actually that trip, 2 out of the 3 pros lost the yellow ball, so we took a bit of stick for a week. Definitely.
That's awesome. I feel like there are going to be a lot of people that are going to want to start playing with yellow balls on the course and just be like, well, Jordan said that this counts for double points.
So yeah, it's great. It's fun. You can have different games and stuff like that, and that's what golf's all about, isn't it?
Yeah,
keeping it
absolutely
entertaining, and obviously we all want to improve and whatnot. But it's great. Yeah, it's good fun. A little bit light-hearted banter the day before the competition starts.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So you talked about the difference between the on and off season in the UK, and it sounds like your off season is maybe about 3 months. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, it depends how bad the weather wants to be. Really, we were very fortunate this off season just gone. It wasn't too bad. We didn't have a bad winter really at all. We had about a week's worth of snow, which was great. It was a bit wet, but it was still still bearable. You can still get out and play golf, and we, as coaches, we can still get out there and coach. But the off season before, we were, especially us at Woburn, we were shut nearly 10 weeks.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was, so it can take a hit. So that's where kind of the ideas of the trips came along, to get away in the winter just in case.
Absolutely, in case it was
January,
bad.
February, March. Yeah, January, February, March typically would be our kind of off season.
Okay. So when you're obviously you're talking about your travel coaching trips, which I think are so cool and very unique from what I have seen. But when you're talking about what you're doing with people versus the on and the off season, I know you mentioned the on season you're able to actually get out the short game, you're able to go on the course versus the range. Yeah. What do you tend to focus on different parts of people's game if you are at home in the UK during the on and off season?
Yeah, it would also depend a little bit on their individual goals, obviously. But yeah, it would change a little bit. So for those more keen golfers, let's say, and those that are trying to always better themselves every year and reduce their handicap constantly, towards the end of the season, so let's say nearer sort of December time, I would always do a little bit of. So I like to keep track of a lot of my guys are doing. A lot of it's done through computers at the golf club now, anyway, so I don't have to really do too much there. I'd have a little review of how they've gone on in the year. Have we hit the goals they wanted to hit? Some of them like to keep their stats, so we'll have a look at those and look at areas that maybe let them down that year or over the last few months of the season. And then we might target those a bit more in the off season, basically. So we'll targeting those weaknesses within their games to then hopefully help them hit their goals coming straight back into season.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. What when you're coaching, I mean, what age groups are we talking about you coaching?
I'm so lucky. I love this is why I love what I do, because I get to meet so many different people day in, day out, from all different backgrounds and ages. It's brilliant. So I've actually got a couple of youngsters that I coach at the moment that are 5.
Oh my goodness!
I know, it's incredible.
That's adorable.
The way they move at golf clubs is brilliant. I'm so jealous. And right up to we've got, the senior section at the golf club. Still got some guys in their mid-70s that come see me quite often that just love playing golf still. So it's great. The diversity is incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The
kids, the kids are brilliant. They're hilarious. I love the kids are fantastic.
So you are a member, or you're an instructor for Teta or Teta Cup. Is that who you coach through at Woburn, or what are the kind of like the differences of those, and then walk us through what Teta Cup does?
Yeah, so Teta Cup is something that was actually developed by a good friend of mine and the head professional at Woburn, Daniel Grieve, alongside Sir Clive Woodward, who was England's World Cup winning coach. I'm going to forget I think it was 2012, I believe. No, a bit earlier than that. But he was also Great Britain Olympic coach in 2012 at our home Olympics. So basically, this was a philosophy that Clive used to use when he won the World Cup.
Okay.
And it's more of an online platform, the Teta Cup stuff. So to reach people around the world, and what it uses is a bit more of a detailed learning process to help people not forget. We know what it's like. We go to golf lessons sometimes and we kind of forget what was happened and what our drill was, what our key points were. So we really break that down for people, and we store it on their own personal bit of software that they can always have handy digital on their phones, laptops, things like that. So we really break down kind of what the process is: discover, distill, do. So we discover what the fault is, for example. We then distill it down into some key areas that they need to focus on rather than everything. And this is obviously specific to them and their golf swing, not the golf swing as a whole. And then the do part is what they need to actually practice to improve that and how they can do that. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so we kind of took his Clyde's philosophies and they brought it into golf. And then, I'm an instructor for Teta Cup. So I use that process daily with my clients to help kind of keep it simple and relatable to their game and not the general golf game. Yeah,
absolutely. Which it sounds like carries over into your Focus Fridays.
100%. Yeah.
So you're very, very consistent.
Well, yeah, I think it's firmly what I believe in terms of all that kind of simplicity. And I think every person is different. Height, some people have physical limitations. Backs is a common one within golf. So trying to teach someone, for example, that to turn more in a golf swing, but their lower back has been fused, it's just not going to work for them. So it's, that's where the generic tips sometimes I feel don't serve that person themselves as well. So it's been about keeping it what that person's fault is, what they need to work on to improve their game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you just mentioned the spinal fusion, because obviously Tiger had a spinal fusion, came back to win the Masters, which is absolutely incredible. But they were just talking about recently when I was watching the Golf Channel, they were talking about how when he came back, he was trying to power through just like he always had. And now he's gotten more into a rhythm where he realizes his limitations. He's still able to do everything he was able to do before, but without kind of the same strain that he always had to have on his back previously. Is that something that you've noticed with people that have a limitation like a spinal fusion or some sort of back injury?
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like relearning what your body can do. I suppose it's a bit of a psychological battle as well of trusting that your body's going to not effectively break.
Yeah.
If you've gone through those injuries, knee replacements, whatever it might be, I can imagine it takes a lot of trust again to, through the nervous system to actually get your body to move in that way and relearn that. But also know what Tiger now does fantastically well. He doesn't overdo it in terms of his events and his practice. He knows he can't do the extent that he used to. So he manages it really, really well. And that's then my job as a coach with my clients to make sure they manage that well. And they can play golf pain-free.
Yeah, absolutely. I interviewed Scott Hamilton a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that same exact thing. He's like, I tell my guys all the time, there is a point where it doesn't make sense on the course anymore, and you're going to start noticing it at like week 4 or 5 of straight competitions where your body is just done, and it just needs a break, and it's okay to take a break to come back better in a couple of weeks.
100%. Yeah, it's going to happen, isn't it? It's body's going to wear thin. These guys, especially on tour, are traveling a lot. Things like that takes it out of you. Definitely sitting, down in planes for too long and then trying to get back up and then trying to ask the body to twist and torque at 100 miles an hour with a force. It's not friendly on the body, and if it's not managed properly, then it can obviously, unfortunately, shorten people's golfing careers.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some consistent issues that you see in people's play that either causes injury or causes potentially someone to give up on the sport because they're just like, well, I can't do it, so I'm done?
The biggest consistencies I would say, I would probably say, going back to kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier, of people searching and trying to find this golden nugget that is going to all of a sudden make them the best golfer in the world. I feel that people don't go and seek the correct advice, so they kind of go around in a vicious circle. I've certainly been there as well. I've been there, and it, and I can bet every golfer can relate to this. How many people stood on the first tee with one swing thought, got down to their second shot on the first. All of a sudden, another one's come in, got onto the third shot. Another one's just crept in there. And then by the time they get to the third tee, they've got about 8 different things going on already. And that's kind of where people then get really frustrated, rather than actually knowing what it is that 1 or 2 things they need to do to improve their game, or keep consistent on the golf course. Comes back to that being on the golf course kind of scenario, to keep, for them to trust that process and keep going. I think people unfortunately get so caught up in must be this, it must be that, must be this, must be that, and it just causes a very vicious circle, unfortunately.
Are there 1 or 2 things that you think every amateur, recreational, I won't say pro because I think they kind of have it figured out, but me as a recreational golfer, or someone that's coming into the game wanting to go pro, something like that, that's an amateur wanting to go pro, do you see something, 1 or 2 things that we can all kind of work on?
Yeah, if you're talking about sort of the game as a whole, and I'm a big fan of, if you're a good driver of the golf ball, and you are tidy around the greens and obviously with a putter, you can be a very average iron player and still shoot some very, very good scores, regardless of your standards. There's no coincidence that the best players in the world are all kind of the biggest and the straightest hitters at the moment. So I would always encourage people to get really good with a driver and get very good from sort of 70 yards and in. I think quite a good stat is, or a good saying, 70% of golf is played from 70 yards and in.
Oh, so, yeah, that makes sense.
So there's kind of gives you a very easy answer. But I'm a big fan of the driver and keeping the driver in play. We all know if you find the fairway, it's a bit easier than it is from chipping out sideways.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that, though, that, what did you say, 70% of the game is played 70 yards or in?
Correct, yeah.
So it's so interesting when you think about that, because I feel like so many times I will go to a course or go to a range and everyone's just constantly practicing driving. I don't see nearly as many people on the practice like putting green.
No, nowhere near as much. And putting's another big one as well. People's, when we're watching TV, obviously we watch the guys that are leading. We're seeing these guys hole, putt after putt after putt. And it does unfortunately put a very bad perception on our minds and we should be holding all these putts.
Oh, yeah.
I think that something like the PGA Tour stat is from, I think it's 8 to 9 feet is only 50% hold. So you kind of listen to that and you think, wow, hang on a minute, that's not a lot.
Right, and that's not what you see on TV at all.
No, exactly.
They're not showing the players when they're not doing extremely well.
No, exactly. So we put a lot of pressures on ourselves for holding those putts, and people sort of moan about missing short putts within their games. Putting wise, I think firstly people working on their speed control, so getting the longer putts closer to reduce the number of 3 putts, rather than put too much pressure on your shorter ones. But no, you're right, exactly the same thing. People spend too much time on the driving range. It's probably a bit more fun, but
yeah, it is probably a little bit more.
But if you're clever around the greens, and there's so many different types of shots you can play around the greens: lofted ones, low ones, checky ones, out the rough, bunkers. There's a lot more to do around a short game area if you're lucky enough to have an area to practice at.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you keep up with the newest technology that's coming out with golf? Because I feel like it's absolutely constant. And what are some of the top technologies that you're seeing or that you've been using over the past 9 years at Woburn that you're like, this is something that my golf game or my students' golf game can't do without?
In terms of equipment, or sort of within launch monitors and things like that as well?
Yeah, I mean, like equipment, rangefinders, different programs, different apps, anything that is like driving people to kind of get to the next level of their game.
Yeah, I think most clubs across golf clubs are all installed with launch monitors. I think launch monitors are fantastic if used in the right way. I like to get my clients to use them, so I'll get them on my TrackMan, for example, and we'll do a lot of ball data, so how far the ball is going with their clubs. I think that's massive. I think a lot of people don't know how far their clubs actually go. It's a very simple one. If you've got a bunker short, for example, and you need to know how far it is to carry. I think a lot of people would struggle to know 2 or 5 yards how far, what club that is within a few yards. So I think, they're critical if used correctly. I think if you sort of dive too much into the swing mechanics and the numbers, it can be very, very confusing and misleading for people's games. If you're not too sure how to dissect them. But from ball data to how far the ball's carrying, I think they're great. We're all rubbish about the rangefinders now, aren't we, and GPS systems and stuff.
It's like cheating.
I used to remember when I was a kid, you used to be able to eyeball a flag. You'd be like, that's about 50 yards, perfect.
Right, exactly.
I wouldn't have a clue now. Wouldn't have a clue. So we're very reliant on those, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
But I'd say the biggest thing over the years that we've got access to, I think, is launch monitors. It's fantastic. There's some of the stuff you can get, and like I said, if used correctly for the right things, it's. I would advise everyone to go and work out how far they carry the ball, and inside 100 yards as well. Work out what your 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 yard shots are.
Okay.
Ones that run out a little bit more as well. So, for example, you could hit a 50-yard shot that carries 50 yards with your 50-degree wedge. Let's use that as an example, and that would maybe run out a little bit more. But you could hit one that carries 50 yards with a 58-degree wedge. Now, because of the loft and the spin that's going to create an impact, that will stop a little bit quicker. So you've got 2 shots there that land 50 yards, but one might have a 5 to 7 yard roll. One will stop pretty quickly. So you've got access to 2 different pins then all of a sudden.
Absolutely. Oh, that's interesting.
So you can get a lot of good data from just knowing those little things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How do you prepare for the game? Like, what is your daily routine? What types of workouts or nutrition plans or anything like that do you follow, if anything?
I was going to say, personally, I don't. Sort of being specific, I do train, sort of work out regularly. Mine personally is not now geared specifically towards golf. It's very much health and fitness, which does still allow me, obviously, to be able to move and swing a golf club effectively. Nutrition-wise, just very basic nutrition. Again, I would just make sure I stay hydrated, make sure I'm eating enough, the right foods, carbs, proteins, things like that. But if I'm being honest, I'm not one that gets too caught up in all of that. I think it's important. It definitely has a place. And I'm sure, and it does affect not being hydrated, for example, is going to be a massive thing for walking on a hot day on a golf course.
Absolutely.
But again, I suppose that's a bit of a common sense to just make sure we do those little things. But it's not something I count my food or anything like that, if I'm being perfectly honest.
No, that's not a problem at all. I'm always interested to know who does and who doesn't. I am someone that does, but I would say the majority of my friends think I'm crazy for doing that. So I completely understand.
Well, that's whatever works for everyone individual, isn't it? That's the thing. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? I'm aware of what I eat, put it that way, but I certainly don't count, and that doesn't work for me in particular. So
yeah. So you have a nickname. Do you want to share it?
Yes, Badger.
So
Jordan
how
Badger.
did you? Yes. So how did you get that nickname?
So that actually came about from my dad, actually. So my surname Bazzone, and when I was younger, it started out as Bazza. So that was kind of how it started. And my dad, at some point, he's got quite dark brown hair, and when he started balding a little bit, it started to also go grey around the sides, but was still quite black through the middle. So a lot of the guys he works with used to it started catching on as Badger as opposed to Bazza, and it went down to me as Little Badger.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Now even my parents' family, everyone calls me Badger or Badge.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's only really my clients or work colleagues that will call me Jordan, or my mum still if I'm being told off.
Right, if you're in trouble.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. So earlier you mentioned that Woburn is hosting the AIG Women's British Open for the second time, I think you said in 3 years?
Correct, yeah.
Which is really awesome. So what does that look like for you as the pro? What do you have to do, and how are you and the club preparing for that spotlight?
So for me, my role is actually pretty simple. I'm quite lucky actually with the tournament coming up. I get to kind of sit in the background, and I'll be lucky enough to be able to go spend a bit of time on the range, and just watch the players and hopefully interact with a few people. So I'll get to watch it a bit more from the sidelines that week, which will be really nice. And when we had it in 2016, I was working for the golf club at the time, so I was more heavily involved with volunteers. So we were doing things, we're actually running the driving range, for example, so obviously giving all the players balls, things like that. So my role is going to be quite nice actually this year. I'm going to be more relaxed and might pay a few visits to the hospitality tent every now and again.
That sounds like a great problem to have.
Oh, it's not bad, is it? But yeah, the club, it's all in full swing now. So they've started build now for some of the grandstands, things like that. And the guys are doing a fantastic job. They are, well into it now, and all the infrastructure that goes up is incredible, and the planning that goes into it. Because we have 3 golf courses at Woburn, and we still keep our other 2 open during tournament. We don't shut them at all.
Wow. So yeah, there's a lot going on then.
Yeah, the planning that goes into that to then get our members on the other 2 golf courses. We're still running 2 golf courses while we've got a major championship going on.
So what is the difference between the courses?
So we've got 3 courses: the Dukes, the Duchess, and the Marquis. The Marquis is where the ladies will be held in August. All 3 of our courses are championship golf courses, and they're all in the top 100 of UK and Ireland currently at the moment, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's nothing to do with me, really. The guys there are fantastic. The green staff and management are brilliant at the golf club. It's really, really nice. So, but 3 different types of courses. We've got the Duchess, which kind of always is called our little hidden gem. It's not the one that people tend to come and play because it hasn't had much tournament history. It's very tree lined, very, very tight, and that's why we haven't had tournament history on it, because we can't get the spectators round the golf course.
Oh, okay.
It's that tree lined, but a great golf course. You have to almost plot your way around that a little bit more. The Dukes was that was one of our original with the Duchess in 1976 when we opened. And the Dukes, we originally held the British Masters when we had it on the map. I can't remember, it was about 13 years ago or so. It was last on the map, I think, on the European tour. And then now we built the Marquis in 2000, and that was always built with a view of hosting bigger events. And since then, we've held final stages of open qualifying. We had the British Masters in 2015, which Ian Poulter hosted. And as you just mentioned, the ladies in 16. And then obviously we've got the ladies back this year in 19, which is massive for us, because I don't think that's been done before apart from some very prestigious clubs in the line of year after year events. For them to come back so soon is fantastic.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know you've mentioned Ian a couple of times. Is he a member at Woburn?
So he's our touring professional, our ambassador.
Okay.
So you'll notice Ian, I think he's got on his shirt at the moment, wear Woburn Golf Club on his shirt. And so he's attached to us, and he's actually back in the UK at the moment, I believe. We saw him just before he went off to the US Open. So he'll come up to the club and he practices up there, plays up there, and so effectively he's based up there.
Yeah. Well, I saw too that his son won at Woburn recently. Yeah,
Luke won net competition for the club championships. He done very well, really, really well. And that was a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was funny because it was right after we confirmed this. And then I was looking at Ian's Instagram. I was like, wait a second, I know where that is.
That's the one. Yeah, so Ian was there supporting him, which was really nice to see. I was there when he picked up the picked up the prize. So yeah, no, well done, Luke. It was really good.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So I know you had mentioned this before, and I think this is just something, I mean, maybe it's my naivete, but I guess I just kind of assumed that as the PGA Pro of Woburn that you were employed by Woburn, but you've kind of made that distinction of when you were employed by Woburn and now as the pro. What are the differences? Like, what happens when you become the club pro?
So the way or the clubs we have two full-time coaches at Woburn so I'm self-employed, Jordan Bazzone Golf, and same as the other pro, Daniel, he's self-employed. So we are Woburn's professionals, but our own businesses, and we're very fortunate to use the facilities. So I was working for Woburn, and then when I made the transition into, and the club supported me going into full-time coaching, they wanted me to stay at the club, which was great. But now we full-time coach at Woburn, just under our own business names.
That's really cool. What when you made that transition, what does it take to become a PGA Pro?
So the PGA Pro, I become a PGA Professional, fully qualified PGA Professional 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago now. Yeah, 5 years. So you actually do I believe I'd imagine it's the same in the PGA of America, but certainly over here we do a 3-year degree, golf degree.
Okay.
Foundation degree, which we cover all aspects of golf. So the management side of things, the custom fitting, the coaching, obviously, and then within coaching, you can do the science side of things, so nutrition and movement, things like that. So you qualify, and then once you're qualified, it's up to you kind of where you want to take that path, really. So plenty of people go into the management side of things, or coaching, or down other routes. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really cool. That's awesome. So as you have continued to coach, and you're doing Teta Cup, and you're doing your Jordan Bazzone Golf, what do you feel are the things that it takes for you to become a great golf coach and be what your students are needing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you've got to be up to date with everything that's going on in terms of everything moving so fast now, the amount of science that's out there. So the golf swing itself, for example. But for me, the biggest thing, keeping your knowledge up is key. For me, the biggest thing I feel is people. So being able to relate to that person and what they're struggling with in their golf game, how you can simply get it across to them to improve and reach their goals. I think that is the same whenever you're a beginner or right through to elite. It's just, I think even to the elite, to an extent, you don't need to teach them how to swing a golf club. You just probably got to understand their feelings a bit more and what's going on, and be able to help them improve. And because they're going to go through patches, dropping off and then going back up again, being able to help them understand where the good stuff comes from.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm in human resources, and it sounds like you could very easily transition to that if golf doesn't work out for some reason.
That's perfect. At least I've got a backup plan now.
Yeah, you have a backup plan. Absolutely.
I've got a backup plan, so I'll have to bear that with mine.
So just a couple more questions before we go to play our quick 9. I'm really interested to know what it means to be a creator of Adidas Golf and an ambassador for TaylorMade, how that kind of came to be, and what you do with them now, how you partner with them now.
Yeah, of course. So, very fortunate that I've got two amazing brands that want to work with me, but also now I love working with them as well. So, talk about Adidas first, the Adidas creator. It was a partnership I created through meetings with some of the reps when coming to the club. Told them what I was looking to do, and this is when I transitioned 2 years ago into being full-time coaching. Mm-hmm. And we're saying, well, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be here at Woburn still. Let's what can we do? Let's swap kind of values as such. And that was really nice. Adidas were the first to jump on board. They were really supportive of what I was doing and told them about sort of the Instagram content I'll be doing, and always wearing their kit and representing Adidas, which I very grateful to them, and I believe in the brand as well. And then the same came about with TaylorMade, really. I was using TaylorMade clubs before. We just made it a little bit more official when I went into full-time coaching. So very lucky they supply me with the equipment, and I fully believe in the equipment. It's fantastic stuff. And yeah, very lucky that I've got two good brands that will support me for clothes and equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool. Did you, just because I'm thinking about some of your polos and pullovers that I've seen you wear, did you create the JB?
Yeah, I can't take full credit because it was one of my clients, actually. It was one of my clients. He helped me out massively. He does all the design and logos and web design and things. And he was massive, actually, behind that. So, yeah, a client of mine called Matthew Miller. I better shout him out for that because I can't take credit for that. So we obviously got that as my brand logo. And, that's what you'll see now.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he really did. So you'll see that on my Instagram and obviously, let's just say, on all my clothes now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jordan, this has been such a pleasure. I am so happy that you took some time with us today to teach us all about being a PGA professional. So are you ready for a quick 9?
I'm actually nervous about this.
Oh, no, it's nothing bad. Oh, yeah, because these are the questions I didn't prepare you for.
No, yeah, this is like I'm sitting on edge here. I don't know what to... I played 9 holes earlier and I didn't play too great, so I hope it doesn't go that well.
No. So it was funny because my first interview was with Kenny Harms, and I was like, hey, Kenny, so who would you prefer to skip around with? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like if you go into your Sunday pairing and you're like, oh, I really don't want to play with them. And he was like, oh, no, not answering that one. I'm out. I was like, okay, fine. I'll come up with another one. But there's nothing like that anymore. So,
Perfect.
all right.
Right.
Are you
Let's
ready?
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is your handicap?
0, scratch.
All right. What is your favorite tournament or course?
Course. My favourite course is a place called Waterville in Ireland in Europe. Links golf course. Absolutely love it.
And where is it in Ireland?
It's in a place called Kerry in Ireland.
Okay. Awesome.
Southwest coast.
Southwest coast. Okay. So if you're going to the Open, you're going to have to do some driving to get there.
Yes, you will do. Yes, for us. Yes.
Okay, so who would you want to play around with or coach, dead or alive?
Oh, I think are we talking 4-ball here or just one person?
Hey, you can do a foursome. That'd be awesome.
Let's go 4-ball. So I think obviously for growing up, a big one for me would have been Justin Rose. I'd like to coach Justin Rose. Actually, I was very lucky enough to hit balls with a range of Justin Rose, but Tiger Woods, obviously, I think the aura, and the late Seve, definitely.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be a very interesting round. What is your favorite place to travel?
Favorite place to travel? I would actually say where I was just sent in Ireland, Waterville. Just recently, one of the trips you probably were talking about is I've just been there. I love going there to play golf. The people there are so friendly. It's amazing. So I love taking my clients there on that golf trip, and it's always something I really look forward to.
Absolutely. What is your favorite golf memory?
My favorite golf memory. Now this was it must have been about 6 years ago now, and I was very lucky to go over to Florida, Orlando, for 3 months. And when I was playing a bit more full-time golf, I was doing my studying, and we stayed I went to Lake Nona for a couple of days, and I was standing on a driving range hitting golf balls next to Justin Rose, Henrik Stenson, Ian Poulter, Graham McDowell, and Peter Hansen at the time.
Jeez.
It was a little bit of a surreal moment, and safe to say when Henrik Stenson hit a golf ball next to me, I thought a cannon was going off. And I quickly put my clubs back in the bag and just sat and watched for a bit.
Right? Like, you know what? We're just going to hang out for a minute.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was when he was only hitting 3-wood and hit these 3-woods, and you could have just put a blanket out there, and they've all landed in this blanket. It was incredible.
That is incredible.
Was an amazing moment.
That is so neat. What is your must-have golf tech tool?
For me, golf tech tool. Mine would be my launch monitor, I suppose. It's something I use a lot with obviously my clients, so I think I would start to struggle without that.
Yeah. What is the best type of music to listen to at the driving range?
Now, see, I don't listen to music when I practice.
Oh, all right.
So
very like in your own head and just your own words of meditation?
Yeah, very much. Just kind of I'm quite good at kind of zoning out a little bit. So it's not. I remember trying it once when I was trying to practice, and I just felt a bit disorientated. It was really weird.
What is your favorite club in the bag?
None of them when they're not working.
That's true.
My favourite club for me is my putter. I do do putt quite well 9 times out of 10.
That's awesome. My aunt and uncle live in Connecticut, and we went up there to visit them, and they had so many golf clubs in their basement. And my husband and I were like, what is going on? And they were like, oh, that's where they go when they're in trouble, when they're not doing well. And we're like, oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's like a subs bench. They come out every now and again.
Exactly. And he's like, and they were like, well, when these start doing poorly that are in our bag, then we go and we see if we can take someone out of timeout. I'm like, I love everything about this. This is awesome. Besides golf, what is your favorite sport?
My favorite sport besides golf would be football or soccer.
Okay. So are you loving like everything that's going on with the women right now? Are you following it?
I have little bits, but if I'll be honest, it's been a little bit busy recently, so I've not been kind of catching up too much. But it's from what I can gather, what I can kind of see. Yeah, I'm trying to keep on top of it where possible.
I won't claim to know anything about soccer, but I do know the U.S. plays France soon, and that is supposed to be quite a game.
Yes, that should be quite a game. That should be a big hitters game, that one.
That'll be awesome. Well, Jordan, where can we continue this conversation with you online? Where can we find you on social? What's your website? How can we continue to bug you?
You can continue to bug me as much as you like on, so my website is jordanbazzonegolf.com, and then Instagram, same, Jordan Bazzone Golf. And they're the two real main platforms I use, me for my website or that. Or you can also check me out on Woburn Golf Club's website as well. All my details are on there.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, it is, like I said earlier, it has been my distinct pleasure. I am so excited for everyone to hear from you very soon.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Great talking to you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Let me know your favorite thing about today's episode and tag me on Instagram at Golfish Podcast or at Miss Amy Goodman. If you liked today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share. See you next week.